Do you see how Marie Antoinette puts her hand on the globe? Very cutesy, very demure. See how she looks right at us in the portrait? Very elegant, very demure. You see how this little short man holds her head up on a stick? Not very mindful. Welcome back. I'm Evil Butts, and I tell you fucked up stories from history. And this is the story of Marie Antoinette. She was born as Archduchess Maria Antonia, November 2nd, 1755 in Vienna, to her father, Holy Roman Emperor Francis I, and her mother, Empress Maria Theresa of Austria. And the Emperor and Empress had a whole assload of children. Marie Antoinette was number 15 out of 16 children. 11 of those children were girls. And all 11 of them had the first name Maria, like their mother. Naming practice later adopted by George Foreman. And because all the children had the same name, they often went by their second name, so Marie Antoinette would go by Antoine. And because she was so late in the litter of children, they really didn't give much of a shit when she was born. They were kind of like, another one, thank you. And this is a very important family she's born into, since this is the Habsburg dynasty. And with her having this bad bitch mother with Maria Theresa, it's actually crazy to think this little baby would grow to become one of the most infamous women in history. I'm sure if you know anything about Marie Antoinette, you probably know that her life ended on a guillotine during the French Revolution. But what you might not know is she was born during some bullshit too. When Marie was born, Austria was in a bit of a secession mess, and they were battling the fuck out of Prussia. And since Prussia all of a sudden is kissing England in the mouth, Austria starts looking to its neighbors to try to join some allies, notably France. Perfect, because the family's speaking French anyway, and I'm sure you can see where this is going. So when Marie Antoinette is less than a year old, she's betrothed to the grandson of King Louis XV of France, and the little boy was very close in age to her. A powerful alliance, but since these children are babies, it doesn't really matter that much until they're older. So she is still in Vienna being raised with her royal family. And her parents are very much big dogs doing big dog shit. Growing up, her mother, Maria Theresa, was the Queen of Hungary and Bohemia in her own right, as well as Empress of the HRE, because Big Mama T's dad was Charles VI, the Holy Roman Emperor, who had made it so his heir would be her in place of a son. He married her off to one of her many Habsburg cousins in Francis I, and she quickly put in his bid for Holy Roman Emperor, since the Holy Roman Empire did not really want a woman at the head of it. But obviously, she ran the show anyway, so boo misogyny, tomatoes, tomatoes. And the Empress definitely had baddie lore, like even her kids were really intimidated by her demeanor. And she was a political powerhouse. Apparently she was birthing 16 babies and writing declarations from her birthing bed. Like, okay, she's on one. And she was of course heavily involved in her most important duty, which was creating powerful marriage alliances for her children to support the Austrian Habsburg dynasty. And Marie Antoinette's emperor father in all of this is kind of just doing party boy shit. He's gambling, he's having affairs, he's hating his wife. But little Marie Antoinette adored her father, and the two of them seemed to have a pretty loving, close relationship. And her father seemed more than happy to just be a figurehead in her mother's operation. And growing up, she's a working royal child, so she's going to events and appearances with her family, but she has a pretty private life in Austria and an education that's pretty heavy in the arts and history. So years pass, she's kind of the neglected millionth child of the group, and eventually France sends over a tutor to kind of assess the situation with Marie, their potential future princess. So Marie is showing him how she reads and how she writes, and he's like, damn, tu es stupide? You're kind of illiterate. He recognizes that she's a little bit lazy with her academics, but she does have a passion for the arts. And she's kind of like, what do you want from me? I'm Marie number 11, okay? They don't care if I can read, I'm shredding on the piano. But he kind of whips her into shape, and she does eventually become a better student, so she probably just needed someone paying attention to her and some structure. Unfortunately, she would have a few rough years ahead in her adolescence, with 3 of her siblings dying of smallpox. Then her dad, Emperor Fran, dies, and the whole family just kind of gets like sad and weird. And Empress Mama T just wears black for the rest of her life. It's a whole thing. Very goth. That brings us to 1770, where she gets shipped off to France, and she is in for the culture shock of her fucking life. Because I'm sorry, the French were absolutely perverse, insane freaks at the time. I'll tell you all about her time in France in the next one. So make sure you're following me and leave a comment, because I need a comment to make the next video. Let's go shit on France.